Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 21 of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Ben Brown. Today, I catch up with my good buddy, Jay Campbell. Jay Campbell is the Amazon best-selling author of the definitive Testosterone Replacement Therapy Manual, How to Optimize Your Testosterone for Lifelong Health and Happiness, and also the founder of TRTRevolution.com and the TRT Revolution podcast. As if that's not enough, Jay, along with business partner Jim Brown, are the authors of the new book, which is called The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, the ultimate guide for optimizing intermittent fasting, burn fat, preserve muscle, enhance focus, and transform health. Jay and Jim, in partnership with visionary entrepreneur Joshua Smith, are also the co-owners of Optimized Life Nutrition, which produces the world's most powerful over-the-counter nootropic supplement, EMF, which stands for Energy, Memory, Focus. OLN offers a unique line of supplements essential for living a hormonally balanced and fully optimized life. In this episode, again, number 21 with Jay Campbell, we talk about testosterone therapy for men, what the main reasons are that men are suffering with low levels of testosterone and essentially becoming feminized. Additionally, what lifestyle and environmental factors are doing to contribute to both men and women's levels of hormones, suppressing certain levels of hormones, and what can be done about it from a testosterone standpoint. Additionally, we talk about Jay's new book, which is called The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, and how he recommends utilizing different ways of intermittent fasting, which you likely have not read about before, and kind of crushes the conventional wisdom about what we know about what we know about intermittent fasting to this day, and how he puts a really interesting spin on utilizing intermittent fasting, how to train or how to alternate between days of eating and intermittent fasting, and ultimately what that's going to do to optimize body composition, but more importantly, improve health and longevity. This was a really, really fun podcast for me. It's really good, again, catching up with my buddy Jay and seeing what he's doing in the industry. Assuming you guys love what we have going on here, then go ahead and subscribe. And if you're listening on iTunes, please subscribe and write a 5-star review for me. It really is the best way that I can see that what we are providing is valuable information for you, and the best way for us to ultimately make smart nutrition simple, which is our main goal. With that said, I'll take it over to Jay. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you on the other side. Jay Campbell, what's up, my brother? How you doing?
Benjamin, I am so excited to be here today, man. It's been a while since I had you on my podcast, and you and I are both busy cats, but genuinely excited and humbled to be here today.
Yeah, it's good to connect again. And you're not kidding when you said you're busy. Like, I was just reading through your bio, and you have like 8 different businesses and 3 different books and a supplement company. And you've done a good job, man. Congratulations on all of your success thus far. We'll get into your new book, which I just read through. I'm really excited to talk about and share with our listeners. I want to jump in right away. I want to jump into TRT Revolution, because that's kind of that's your first business, isn't it?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So real quick, and by the way, thank you. I appreciate it. It's every now and then it's difficult to get it together. I actually did a live Facebook broadcast with Nelson Virgil. God, it's so fast. It's 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago from Friday, and he's like, "It's Jay Campbell." I was about to get my bio, and I just went blank on the screen. I'm like, I do a lot. I'm a gypsy.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate it. So TRT Revolution is obviously the website that I launched 19 months ago now. And it was in, obviously, response to the book, which is the TRT Manual, the definitive Testosterone Therapy Replacement Manual, How to Optimize Your Testosterone for Lifelong Health and Happiness, which is right here, which launched formally in November of 2015. And subsequently, it's become the #1 selling book of all time on testosterone replacement therapy. It's got close to 400 5-star reviews on Amazon. Very received in the clinician, / clinical community, as well as across the world on many different continents. So it's been amazing for me. I've been thoroughly blessed as that book has really opened a lot of doors for me. And then, 7 months, 8 months later, I launched TRT Revolution as a website. And from the website, my business partners, Joshua Smith and Jim Brown, and I formed TRT Revolution Limited Liability Corporation, which is actually based out of where you're at in Phoenix. And we launched formally Energy Memory Focus as a supplement line, which is part of Optimized Life Nutrition in January of this year. So obviously, as you know, it takes a while to formulate stuff and to design and do all the R&D and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. And then from there, as you said, it's been a crazy year. We just launched the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet book and 2 online products with it, which one of them is 90 Days to Optimize, which is kind of like Jim and I's, 30 years of synthesized information on everything, from a fitness standpoint, health, anti-aging, all of those things. And then we also have Jim's training program, which, you've read about a little bit because it's in the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, and that's called Forge Training. And that's kind of, Jim being 30 years, almost IFBB pro, very, very close, competing at the highest levels, and then also consulting with a lot of those guys. And actually, many of those guys were kind of his, he trained them, online for years. So it's kind of his theory of training and his program, and it's a hypertrophy program, pure and simple. And so, with all those different things going on, as you said, we're blessed, and it's hard to keep up with, right? With all the marketing and the funnels and all these things. Yeah. But like I said, extremely excited to have it all going on right now.
Amazing, man. That's great. Again, congrats. So let's take a step back and talk to me about the TRT Manual. What prompted the development of that book? Especially for someone that's not in the medical industry, but realizing there's a need to start talking about testosterone. What was that journey about?
It's a great question. So I've said this on a lot of different podcasts, but because you and I are boys, I'm going to go a little deeper. So 29 years old, pro basketball player, had a little cup of coffee overseas, played in college and everything. When I came back, I kept playing like an idiot and was playing really, really competitively. And I got kicked in the testicles at 29 playing, and, whatever, just got kicked in the nuts, kept going. And then like about a month later, I started having issues. So I went to the doctor, and I was very lucky. And this guy, and again, this is back in literally 1999, right? I'm 46. So this guy referred me to an endocrinologist. He said, well, I want to run some tests because, you're not even 30 years old and you're having these issues. So again, it was very, very lucky, especially knowing what I know about the practicing community when it comes to testosterone replacement therapy, which, by the way, I have now changed the acronym. It's now testosterone optimization therapy, and we'll get to that in a second. But so he sent me to an endocrinologist, and I was so lucky, Benjamin. The guy was Harvard educated, Dr. Raymond Scruggs. He ran some tests on me. He's like, bro, you 237 or 247, testosterone level, which is a testosterone level of a 90-plus-year-old man. I'm like, what? So at that point, I didn't know anything about any of this. But he said, look, I'm going to put you on low-dose testosterone replacement therapy, and you'll be fine. And so, it was like, okay, well, this guy's a smart guy. I'll trust him. And I went down that path. And sure enough, 2 months later, everything was great. Felt like I was 18, 19 years old. I had great energy again. I started playing really competitive basketball. Everything about my life improved. My business. At the time when it first happened, I was starting to break down a lot. I had low back issues and stuff. I wasn't the same guy. So starting the clinical testosterone, everything changed. And then being who I am, I'm very passionate, obviously, studious person. I wanted to learn more about it, and I did. And then subsequently, and I never went off. I stayed on it. I was like, why would I want to come off of this? And of course, always did this above board. This is no underground, using anabolic steroids or any of that nonsense. It's always been a clinical dosage. I always tell people I've never been over 150 milligrams of testosterone a week.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in for a second? What was the perception of testosterone therapy at that time? Because this was
it's a good question. So I'm in Southern California, and the clinic that Dr. Scruggs practiced out of was called New Hope Health. And he worked with a lot of men that were doing anti-aging, like wealthy men in Orange County. And so to me, it wasn't like out of the unusual, out of the ordinary. Now, obviously it was hard to get information. Okay. So outside of like speaking to him and him recommending select studies on Medline and PubMed for me to read, it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is today, where anybody can go online and read about testosterone replacement therapy. So my this goes way back, but my first wife at the time who I was with, she didn't, she questioned it initially and she's like, are you sure, should we read more about this? And I'm like, well, he's a Harvard educated physician. I don't think he would send me down the wrong path. And so, it was kind of a leap of faith, I guess, a little bit when I first started, but like I said, everything turned out so great for me and it improved my life so much that, I never even questioned it. And then I just started reading it. Mm-hmm. And so, to get back to your question, your original question is like, how did you write this book? I became so passionate. I became such an advocate. I started reaching out to people that were writing books about the subject. And, Nelson Virgil was really one of the first people. And he's very open about his story. He started testosterone and other, medications like growth hormone and decadorabalin and a couple other stuff to stay alive. He was literally given a death sentence. He had HIV. And at that time, they had no cure, no medicines. There weren't antivirals. There weren't all these things that they have now. So him and another guy by the name of Dr. Michael Mooney ventured off to start experimenting with these drugs. And so he wrote a book, and now I forget the name of his book, Built to Survive. And he had a lot of this is all the studies that had been done and, Russian universities on testosterone and blah, 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 blah. So, again, this is literally back in the early 2000s. So that was kind of it, obviously you could find studies on PubMed and Medline, but there wasn't as much as there are now. And it was, it still was kind of hard to find it, but I just became such a big student of it. A lot of my friends, in the quote unquote, and then later in my life when I was in my late 30s, so end of 2000, I think I want to say like 2009 and 2010, I competed. So I got into not bodybuilding, but like the male physique, right when the physique thing started. So I had friends in that community, that were, playing around with probably anabolic steroids and using other stuff. And so whenever I would talk to people, I would tell them stuff and they would be like, well, how do you know so much about this? And then, my story would always come up and say, well, I know a lot about this from the clinical side of things. So then a lot of those guys just kind of encouraged me over time to write a book. And this story is very, very open on the internet because I've done so many podcasts about this. When I first decided to write the book, which was in 2013, I reached out to Rick, and now I can't think of the guy Rick Collins, excuse me, who's a very famous.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard him speak multiple times.
I sent him a copy of the book, the original manuscript, the V1 of it, and he wrote me back and he's like, this book is awesome, man. He's like, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, because I had asked him in my email, I was like, if I was to publish this book, could you, for a fee or whatever, grant me like safe harbor or, indemnify me from any kind of potential issues. He actually picked up the phone and called me and he was like, Jay, listen, he's like, your book is awesome. But he's like, all it takes is one senator, okay, or one, publicly elected official to get a bug up his ass about you. And then you're paying me probably $250,000, by the end of it to keep you out of federal penitentiary. So at that point, he scared the shit out of me because I was like, well, dude, I just want to write a book about testosterone as a non-medical, practitioner. And you're telling me that if somebody gets a bug up their ass because I'm writing about this, I could go to jail. So I was like, done, book's done. So very luckily, I'd also sent the book to Nelson. And he didn't respond back to me. And he and I didn't know each other. We knew each other from like emails and stuff like that, but he didn't know me and I didn't know him. So when I sent him the book, he didn't respond right away. And it's because he was actually in Venezuela and he was out of the country doing some volunteer work. And so it was like literally 45 days later, I get an email in the middle of the night from him. And he's like, we need to talk. I read your book. And so I did. And I told him, what Rick Collins had told me. And he laughed at me. He said, Jay, he said, your book is so good. This book has to get out into the world. He's like, this needs to be in the hands of as many men as possible. He's like, this is amazing. And now remember, he had written, previous to mine, he had written the best book ever on it, right? His book, Testosterone, A Man's Guide, I think was published in 2011. And then he had another publishing, I think, at the end of 2012. But my book is much more lay than his book was.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's very technical. But anyway, so he said, you're putting this book out there. So then I was very thankful and relieved of it. And I said, okay, the book will go on. And so then we, it still took from that point, it took another year of editing and going through stuff. And I actually was partnered with another person at one time that completely unraveled. So that kind of set me back 6 months in the direction that we were going. But, long story short, the book published in November of 2015 and the rest, as they say, is history.
So what is it? obviously you had identified a need, and one thing is you had identified it out of your own needs, right, to increase your testosterone levels because of your injury. But obviously we've seen, and obviously you identified the need for other men to have this type of information, so that not so that they can self-diagnose, but so that they can understand that low testosterone is a legitimate issue.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's something that you were observing and hearing from, your peers, and part of the impetus to create that resource.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So literally, I'd say from mid 2013 up until the book was published, it became pretty clear, from an environmental, like a socioeconomic environmental issue, that high estrogen, the dad bod, all of that stuff started taking a role or playing a role kind of in the population, and it was clear from the research I was doing too, because I was obviously doing a lot of research and trying to compilate studies and all that stuff as much as I could. That there was an estrogen, an emasculation, or an estrogenation, as I would call it, of men, and it was clearly being brought on by all these endocrine disrupting chemicals. And clearly, as I say now on every podcast I do, and it's going to be massively researched and cited in the next book. And there's some in the current book about it, but not nearly as much as I had, because most of the studies from them was in 2013 and 2014. These endocrine disrupting chemicals, Ben, are just they're screwing with everybody. And it's not just men. It's also women too. I mean, it just, what's happening right now is we have a massive environmental, I like to call it as a siege on human endocrine systems, just from modern day living, engineered food, birth control, which is now in the water supply. I mean, there's just so many chemicals from modern day living that has attacked and assaulted our endocrine systems that many, many men and women, of course, and women aren't even getting the diagnosis much about, hormonal imbalances as men are suffering the effects. And as you know, the suffering of the effects are high estrogen body fat deposition, a lack of masculine qualities, the way you carry yourself, the way you act. Suboptimal levels of testosterone create, brain fog. They create indecisiveness. There's a lot of issues around this. So it started to obviously become much more clearer in those years of 2013, 2014, as I did the research, and then also just looking around. And so talking to people in my peer groups and stuff like that, everybody started talking about this. Then the soy, that became a big thing. People were talking about soy, and now it's kind of like a big name on Twitter and stuff like that, even more recently, like in the last year. But yeah, it's pretty difficult to escape the environmental assault because of modern day societal living.
So is this something that, I mean, obviously you feel like men have to go to great lengths, and women, to avoid excessive exposure to these hormone disruptors that are essentially turning men into women and creating more problems with females and excessive female hormones. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, look at it as essentially, the only thing a guy can do today, if you're 30 or older, and even some guys unfortunately have to do this and be more proactive even younger, is to get their blood work done. And you don't have to necessarily go through a physician to do that. There's many, many private lab companies now in North America. I could name, rattle off 10 of them, right now, but you don't need a prescription. You can go in, you can get a free testosterone, a total testosterone, and an E2, which is your estradiol levels, looked at. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really hard unless you're in shape, unless you're living the lifestyle that you and I preach and espouse, which, as you know, very few people in America are. I think the recent data from last week I saw now is that 40% of people in the United States are obese, right? Okay. So 4 out of 10 people. So, that's also an issue that's tackled in the book, in this next upcoming book, is that, is low testosterone, it's the chicken and egg question, is low testosterone or a symptom of obesity or insulin resistant or metabolic disorder? And obviously we argue in the book that it is. However, a lot of people are so lazy and they won't do the other work necessary to drop the body fat, to live a cleaner life, to improve their health, that, a lot of physicians have just kind of adopted testosterone as a panacea. And we say in the book that, unfortunately, if you go down that path and you don't mitigate your other lifestyle factors, testosterone won't do anything for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I've had so many people that I've spoken with and consulted with that testosterone's a legitimate issue, but like you said, is it because of insulin resistance? Is it because of thyroid issues? Is it because of environmental toxicity? And should you go down that road, are you going to adopt the lifestyle factors and nutrition and fitness, parameters that you need to get things back in check? So from what you've seen, Jay, I guess, what have you found to be effective for men? So let's say it's a 30-something male that has been diagnosed with low testosterone levels. Now, assuming, let's say that they're exercising and they're somewhat diligent about their nutrition, and they undergo testosterone therapy, in how many cases, or what percentage of this population have you seen the testosterone therapy to be beneficial?
So it's another good question. So it's perfect, actually, because I just put a study in the book 2 days ago that they're saying, and this is a global, there's two, but the one that's relevant to your question is that they're saying now the top progressive physicians are basically assuming that 40% of men who come to see them complaining of this issue. So not 40% of the population, but 40% of men who come in. And that's another issue too, because most men are untreated and don't seek treatment or don't seek the right type of treatment are suboptimal. So, if it's a physician who knows what they're doing, and that's kind of an issue too with
Sure.
doctors that are prescribing testosterone optimization, they should first look at, and you said it right, they should look at thyroid. They should look at insulin resistance, body fat levels, because it's a lot easier to treat, things that you can improve naturally as a frontline form of treatment versus, prescribing somebody testosterone. But then there are cases too where there are guys like you and me who come in and are in great shape. Physically they have low body fat, they still train, but they have like they have high sex hormone binding globulin, they have poor conversion of free testosterone to bioavailable testosterone. So there's other factors that sometimes need to be mitigated, but all of this stuff can really truly be alleviated if you work with a progressive doctor who has an experiential, based practice of working with numerous men, prescribing them hormones, optimizing their thyroid, suppressing their insulin signal through obviously nutrition and where necessary, medications like metformin or whatever. But there's just not a lot of those, Ben. That's the biggest issue. The biggest issue becomes is that the majority of providers, unfortunately, in North America are still in the sick care model, and they're not in the preventative treatment model. And so kind of like, me and Jim and, you obviously and Josh and people like us, we're trying to change the game, right? We teach people to, modulate their lifestyle before seeking, treatment for things that they might necessarily need. Because as I always say, testosterone, when you go down that path, this is a lifelong pursuit. You can't just stop and go back to natural. And a lot of guys, question that. They say, well, if I have to be on it for life, that's a big decision. And it is. But, my argument is always, well, look, if you're 35 or 40, okay, and you're already, like this from a decline standpoint, when you complain about losing your natural production, you don't have any natural production. It's only going to keep going down and down and down. So again, even if you mitigate all those lifestyle factors and you make all the right choices and you do all the right things, you still have to at least consider optimizing your hormones, because you don't want to get on the low testosterone train, as I say, because that is a very fast descent into increasing, the potential, as they say, all causes morbidity, which is death.
Yeah. Jay, you sum it up perfectly. And I think the best thing that guys can do is educate themselves. So make sure you go check out TRTRevolution.com. I know you guys have a ton of great information on there, and obviously your book, the TRT Manual, because it's like you said, so many, nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, sleep issues. I recently had a guy who had terrible sleep apnea. And the second he got on a CPAP, he just started shedding body fat, and his testosterone levels, started to go back up. So there's so many different reasons, and it's not necessarily, but it doesn't have to be taboo to be using therapeutic dosages of testosterone, which is something that I believe is highly prevalent in those that aren't educated enough. And so the best things that we can do is, for those of you listening, go check out trtrevolution.com, learn and do your blood work and actually, identify with what these parameters mean. You got to do your homework, guys. You got to learn, what your body's telling you. So that's good stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, well, we could talk all day on that, but I really want to jump into your new book, The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. I got to say, Jay, I really enjoyed the book, and I enjoyed it because for someone like me, so I have obviously a pretty good depth of understanding for nutrition, for fitness, for lifestyle. So I have all of these things that I'm, me personally, that I'm already implementing. But what I thought was so relevant about the book was it gave me a system for how to put all of these things into place, right? I understand intermittent fasting. I understand, the importance of supplementation, but more importantly, quality nutrition. But it gave me the guide, right? It gave me the guide from a more advanced nutrition and fitness understanding and nutritional timing standpoint to say, now you can take all of that stuff and here's how to plug it in to get the best possible results. Could you talk about some of the main principles of the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you know, we hate people like us in our realm of the world. And by the way, thank you. I'll just say it. You left an amazing review on Amazon, and that is, very well received. And again, coming from someone like you, it's. I almost said I had tears when I read that yesterday. So I truly appreciate it. It means a lot. It really does. But I think it's important for the listeners who watch this, obviously in the rerun and whatever. There's no such thing, and there's no such thing as a diet, right? Like everything is a lifestyle. Okay. So, we went back and forth on the book, if we were going to call it like the Metabolic Blowtorch Lifestyle versus the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. And, we decided on diet because we felt that it would apply to more people because, as you know, there's so many people who are lifelong dieters and, they'll see the book on Amazon and be like, oh, what's this? But the truth is it's a lifestyle. And it's embracing, as you said, the intermittent fasting lifestyle. And as also a practitioner of the intermittent fasting world for literally close to 8 years, I go way back. Martin Burkans and I are not friends. He does not like me anymore since that book now has been published. But he knows me and I know him. And I think that what he put out to this day, I still say is that, he was way ahead of his time and God bless him to put the book out that he put out. But as we've very accurately, pointed out in the book, there was a lot of research out there where a lot of the intermittent fasting people are in our opinion, in error. And there's nothing in error. I mean, you can obviously fast in the ways that they talk about it and train fast and do all these things. But for us, if the goal of as you age is to, resist the diseases of aging, right? And as you and I know, the number one deterrent to resist disease is muscle, right? Because muscle is the most metabolically active tissue. It's the most insulin resistant. It's obviously the most resistant to injury, assuming it's pliable and that you warm it up and you stretch it and you do all these other great things that you should be doing. But we were looking at all the research and we were thinking like, well, most of these people that, have these great, fasting books and programs out there recommend that people train fasted. And we're like, well, that's not the optimal way to build muscle, especially as one ages. So, we looked at a lot of the research, and as you know, you've read the book now, and there was so much research out there that showed that training fasted versus training not fasted was, not really conducive to building muscle. So essentially what we really did was, and then obviously we also looked at the biochemical cascade of like BDNF and, ghrelin and AMPK. And I don't want to get too esoteric, for the listening audience, but, all these chemicals that are being increased and secreted, in the biochemical cascade when one fasts, we just kind of extrapolated that the research is showing that the longer you can fast, the more body fat will come off, and especially stubborn body fat. Now, again, not to get too esoteric, but the research shows very, very conclusively that fasting hours or windows beyond 18 for men to 21, 22 hours is when two things happen. You get the most brain-derived
BDNF. Yep.
Neurotrophic factor, excuse me. And then also you get fight or flight chemicals, which are, as you know, known as catecholamines secreted. So the catecholamines are going to be increased and as a fight or flight response in the long hours of fasting. And guess what they do? They have this amazing ability to attack stubborn body fat because they're hitting the B2 and the A2 receptors, which are the stubborn body fat receptors. So in reading that research, I was telling Jim when we were experimenting with this, and this is, by the way, we've had this diet in our little inner circle of clients and people we've consulted with for like 5 or 6 years, but it was more along the lines of Martin Burkhan's, 16-hour fast, 8-hour windows. So we started tweaking and playing around with this 8 or 9 months ago by extending the fast windows. And I swear to God, Ben, as I don't know if you've played around with this yet or not, but everyone that has, the first thing they say is like, wow, I can't believe how much fat I'm losing in areas that I would always struggle to lose fat in. Like I'm dropping inches. And then they would tell us that they weren't losing weight, that they were, their pants were fitting them different. They were feeling leaner, like quote unquote less bloated, but they weren't dropping weight. So we're like, yeah, this is working. You're losing fat and holding on to muscle. So again, the chief difference of the diet is we recommend that people train on days they don't fast. And we recommend that they fast on days that they don't train. So essentially, again, it's like and I hate using this word in diet terms, yo-yoing, but that's essentially what you're doing. So you're creating, the metabolic processes of fasting, which is suppressing your insulin signal, increasing metabolic rate through all of these fat-burning chemical increase secretions or production. And then on the next day, you're eating more. So you're spiking your insulin a little bit more. You're increasing an uptick of metabolic rate and thyroid hormone and all those other things. So your body is like in this every other day cycle of, okay, insulin's down, more chemicals to burn stubborn body fat. And then the next day, insulin's up. We have more calories, more food, more carbohydrates. So we got to upregulate our metabolism. So the body never gets static. Whereas in a lot of the research in intermittent fasting programs where people fast every single day, over time, the reduction in calories shows a reduction in metabolic rate. And, you kind of get into that, you have like a resistance, you have like a plateau where you can't overcome. So, that's really kind of it. There's no, I wish I could say that there's like a lot of metabolic magic going on, but there really isn't. It's just interpreting the research and recommending different things. That's all.
Well, that was the cool part. And, so just to clarify, so you've got basically someone would have 3 training days or 4 training days per week, depending, which is great for the busy person. Let's just say it's 3 training days. And on those training days, they're basically eating normally, right?
Exactly.
There's no fasting. They're consuming a pretty legitimate amount of calories.
For sure.
A legitimate amount of protein, carbs, and fats. And what I liked was how you outlined the carbohydrate needs based on their somatotype. And for those listening, it's basically our genetic predisposition to tolerate carbohydrates. So whether you're a skinny dude that has a really hard time putting on, muscle mass, you'd be liberated to consume a good amount of carbohydrate versus just a naturally, for lack of a better term, fatter guy who can't tolerate carbohydrate well. And you know what? Sorry, but you need to keep the carbs a little bit lower, at least until you get leaner. And that was nice to see in a resource, because there's not very many where I've seen that in there in reference to our carbohydrate intake. And I know from working with a lot of people that that's very, very relevant to use as a guide. So then we have those training days, and then in our non-training days, again, is I like that you're saying, look, let's use it, let's optimize sort of this fasting window. And so what is it? It's between, for guys, 16 to 20-ish hours of fasting.
Yep. And for women, and you know what? It's great. And by the way, thank you for saying that. It's true. It's very unfortunate, right? People that, there's so many cookie cutter, one size fits all type things that people try to apply. Like a lot of the people in the If It Fits Your Macros crowd, they try to do that. And as you know, it never works because, people that have really, really poor insulin sensitivity, the normal somatotype of someone who's endomorphic or, kind of chunky fat, pear-shaped body, they can't eat that many carbohydrates. So if you tell them that they can, it's obviously it's going to lead to, they're not going to get results, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So it is unfortunate. And I liked how you said it. Hey, it's reality. You know, it's like I always say about my brother, you know, I have obesity in my family. My mom's side of the family is there's morbidly obese people. I have morbidly obese people in my family. And one of my brothers would be, but he doesn't eat carbohydrates. He's a grazer. You know, he'll literally go to a family get together and take a bite of, you know, a giant like carbohydrate laden casserole, and that's it. Yeah. And then he just, you know, eats meat and green vegetables, and that's how he lives. And he's now a lean, you know, fat burning machine, and he has the genetics to be a fat person. So everyone has to, it's always a choice, as you know, but you have to be cognizant and conscious of how your body processes carbohydrates. But to your question, on your fasting days, we always say start low, go slow, or start slow, go low. But you have to figure out how long it's going to take you genetically to get fast adapted. And most people, in my experience, will be fast adapted within 5 days. Now, people that are morbidly obese, who literally are like, you know, 1 foot in the grave from a metabolic disorder standpoint, they've never taken care of themselves, they've never eaten right, it may take them 10 days. Because normally what would be happening is they have a really infected gut biome. They've got candida. Who knows what's growing in their stomach from all the crap that they fed themselves. So those people might take a little bit longer to become fast adapted. But all fast adapted means is your body can go extended periods without you jumping up and down saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. I'm hungry. Oh my God, I can't make it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty good learned response in terms of getting used to the fasting. And, you know, you had asked if it's something that I've implemented, and interestingly enough, prior to getting the book, it was something that I was already sort of intuitively doing. Right. Based on my schedule, and that obviously I know the value of intermittent fasting, and I wanted to start to experiment. So for the last year or so, I'd have days where I would do a 20-hour fast, and then a couple other days where I would do somewhere around a 16-hour fast. And so it was cool to have that validated. With that said, and so what I noticed was the more I did it, the easier it got to go longer. So I think it's important for people to understand, like, this is a learned response. And you have to, if for one thing is people don't know how to identify hunger signals correctly and be comfortable with hunger, as we start to freak out the second we start to get hungry. And so, you know, So it's like, okay, just
so true.
For some people it might, and again, this is a little bit more of an advanced resource, but it can have so much benefit to everyone.
Yes.
So with that is just getting comfortable with being hungry for longer and longer periods of time. So I like how you said, start low, go slow, and just build up to it.
I don't think, this is just my personal opinion. I think, and this is what we say, and I've actually, you know, we've gotten 10 reviews on Amazon from middle-aged obese women who, you know, have no fitness background whatsoever, barely weight trained, you know, totally deconditioned or unconditioned, and they've started the diet and they're blown away. So, you know, I want it to be known that, yes, it is an advanced resource because we're trying to cover all bases and angles. But the truth is, you know this, anyone can pick that book up and kind of, you know, go to the section that applies to them. We have tons of configurations for average people, women and men, you know, certain body fat levels, you know, certain goals. Here's the calculation. And then we also have, and I wanted to say this at the beginning of the show, and I apologize, for anybody that watches your podcast, all you have to do is send me an email, jay@trtrevolution.com. And I will send you guys a copy of the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, the PDF. And if you're somebody who wants a copy of the TRT Manual, I'll be happy to send you that too. But we also have a caloric converter. I have a really awesome friend who wrote some software, a software patch for it. And this thing literally is the most amazing tool. It'll calculate your everything for you on your fasting day and your training day. So it'll save you a lot of math. You know, if you really want to dial it in. So yeah, just send me an email for it. But anyone can do the diet. I wanted to just make one point on what you said though. It's funny because we're so caught up in modern day living, but think about 60 years ago, right? There wasn't any instantaneous food. There wasn't any meal replacement powders or shakes or Costco Premier Proteins. There wasn't anything that people had that was like instantly available from a food consumption standpoint. So most people only ate 2 or 3 times. You might have eaten breakfast. Hopefully you ate like a mid-afternoon meal, and then you had dinner with the family, right? Because we were in like an agrarian society, but there was no gratification food. Now we live in a world where everything can be at your fingertips, right? And so we're trained, as you said, to just eat on command. As soon as you feel like, oh, I should eat something. And then, this doesn't even get into the emotional aspects of people. We eat. And so it's like, and then there's also just the literature. One of my good friends is always like, just think of the axiom, food for thought. Right? I mean, food for thought. So it's like we've become so immersed and inculcated culturally to eat whenever it seems right, and we're not really eating to fuel our body. So when you get into the fasting mode, as you said, it definitely is a learned response. It becomes easier and easier to not eat. I mean, I literally live this lifestyle now. Today's an eating day. I trained this morning. I did legs, and so I'll eat today. But I went 22 hours yesterday. I had one meal last night. It was turkey, salad, dressing, and then I had a large protein shake with probably 65 or 70 grams of protein and like 4 tablespoons of MCT oil. Mm-hmm. So I probably had 1,100 calories in a 2-hour period yesterday. But that's normal for me on a fasting day. And I had very, very low carbs, if anything, trace. So, the beauty of the diet, or again, the lifestyle, is it's very customizable to the individual person based on what their, your unique wants and needs. And as you said, 3 days a week is for maximum fat loss, training, and then 4 days training is to preserve muscle, or even if you're, intermediate or lower level, you could probably build a little bit of muscle too.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna start to play around with more. I'm doing a photo shoot for just some branding stuff coming up in about a month, and so we'll see. I need
6-pack abs dialed in.
Come on, man. They're already pretty dialed, but but we could tighten it up just a little bit, sure.
Of course.
So
man,
okay, cool. So like we said, it gives you the opportunity to create more awareness, but also structure around your daily and weekly eating, which also is going to obviously create a level of caloric restriction, which is what we know we need when we're trying to lose body fat.
Absolutely.
And it does it makes it somewhat easy to do because you have that structure. You have the intermittent fasting structure in place, and you don't have to think about like, I'm going to eat 5 times, but I'm just going to have a little bit at each time. And then you're just thinking, holy shit, when's the next meal coming? And it's almost agonizing. So I like that component. And then something I've been noticing is on the days when I go longer, and you talk about the BDNF, and I want you to go deeper into that and explain kind of what that comes from. But getting closer to the 18 and 20 hour ranges is I notice almost this lucidness, this brain, this cognitive, almost tunnel vision warmth, where it's like, wow, I feel really focused. I feel like I can really kind of get a lot accomplished. And I didn't understand actually what that was coming from. I mean, I knew, there's cognitive benefits to intermittent fasting, but then you highlighted the BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, in the book. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what that is, why it's important?
Right. Yeah, no, so that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So I actually just did a fast, not this past weekend, but the last weekend, of 63 hours. It's the longest fast of my life. I've done one previous to that, I had done a 46-hour fast. So that was the most. And then, I went from Friday, I think at 4 p.m. until Monday morning at like 5 o'clock, because I had to train on Monday morning. I wanted to get 3 hours worth of calories in. And by the way, that was a mistake. That's a whole other conversation for today. The body needs, definitely, in my opinion, 6 hours of glycogen restoration or repletion to get a good, solid training program. And again, another example of why training fast is just suboptimal. But to get to your question, so BDNF, again, brain-derived neurotropic factor, is this amazing biochemical cascade that goes on in the brain at select hours. And again, most of the research shows it's starting to happen or to peak at about 16 and a half hours and beyond. And then there's like another hit when you get to beyond 36 hours of fasting. And a lot of people, now this is where I'm going to go woo on you. A lot of people who are long-term heavy fasters, and obviously there's a lot of people in the community, in the spiritual community, that fast. Now, I want to make this clear. fasting, and the way you and I are talking about it, is no calories. Okay. You can drink water, caffeine, black coffee, but 0 calories. This is not juice fasting. This is not lemon juice or blah, blah, blah. This is true hard, no calories fasting, right? To create all this biochemical cascade. So the second hit of BDNF, when it really gets hard, is beyond 36 and 40 hours. And a lot of people, like I said, in the spiritual community, this is when they say that you're connected to God source or God flow or whatever it is, the spiritual awakening. And now obviously you can go back in history, and we write a little bit about this in the book, I think, in one of the FAQ questions. A lot of spiritual leaders, gurus, have gone into the woods, into the forest, into, remote areas and fasted for, 5 or 6 days, 7 days in a row. Okay. And again, this is for this connection to what you were talking about, like this lucid, amazing. So just real quick to go back to my 63-hour fast. This is going to be really crazy. So I was working on the book. Again, this is not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And it was on a Sunday afternoon. And I was about 46 or 47 hours. And I just all of a sudden had this I was overcome by this feeling of I need to get up from my studio, which is what I'm in right now, and just get up and go out and walk around the block. And when I did, I don't know how to say it, Benjamin. I'm not a woo-woo guy. I'm definitely a believer in, bigger and better things. But I had this energy about me that was so unbelievable. It was literally I was inspired, right? So I walked around the block. I came back to my office. And I sat down and I started typing. And the only way that I can describe what I felt was the words and the thoughts came to me without thinking. Mm-hmm. And I just started typing, and I had a block. I was in a chapter of the book that I was really blocked. And dude, I wrote probably 10 paragraphs, and I couldn't write 2 paragraphs for the previous 3 days. And it was just insane. And I was just wow. As I drove home, it was about 9:00 at night. By the time I was done on Sunday night, I texted my wife and I said, you got to fast. You got to do this. You got to fast, 48 plus hours just to feel what it feels like. But yeah, there's some sort of biochemical things going on. There's some spiritual people say that it also opens up the pineal gland. It's like a direct connect. But again, almost everybody I know, I also know some special forces guys. And I can't name names, but some of these guys, when they're on missions, are isolated and cut off, and they're, stationary, and they go without food for 72 hours. They're, and one guy in very particular was actually a consults with Jim and I, amazing dude. And he told us stories about that when he was at 60 plus hours, he felt like he was literally communicating with the animals, in the leaves and in the areas where he was isolated. He felt like they were talking to him. And he was he's I don't tell most people this. I wouldn't tell my family and stuff like this. He's but I'll tell you guys. And I'm telling you, dude, I felt like when I was walking around the block that if a bird wanted to land on my shoulder and talk to me, I probably could have spoke to him. It didn't happen, but I just felt so connected to the planet and just everything around me. It was just different. And it went away. The next day when I woke up in the morning and I refed myself, those feelings went away. But again, I've read about it, and now I've spoken to people that have had similar experiences, that there is something going on of a spiritual, connection level, or maybe a soul level. I don't know how to really, quantify it, but it's amazing. And sure enough, it definitely is BDNF related, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much that we just don't know. And the state of the industry, the state of our nutrition, and we're just scratching the surface of what we know about human physiology and nutrition. And there's so much stuff out there that's that claims to be the end all be all resource. And the fact of the matter, evidenced by your experiences, is we just don't know very much at all about what is capable, what the human body is capable of, and what our body really needs and can utilize from a nutritional standpoint. And everyone's very different. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's very valid. And, on a more tangible level is for a lot of people, we lose touch with the cognitive aspects of our nutrition and what we can accomplish. And so for me, the appreciation lies in going that, 18 to 20 hours and and feeling that lucidity, and kind of feeling like I can be hyper productive during those periods of time, which is where people could really use that to their advantage. So that was enlightening for me. And Jay, so, that, like we said, so the book is a great resource. Where can people find the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet?
So yeah, good question. And let me add one thing too for people on fasting, because I get this a lot and it's perfect for your podcast. This belief that you're going to lose muscle when you fast is complete nonsense. Okay. I have studies in the book, and I'm again happy to send these to anybody who disputes this. But if you're a bro, quote unquote guy, have a great physique, you're in the fitness industry, bodybuilding industry, whatever, fasting is not going to blow muscle off. In fact, the studies and the research that I looked at said that it takes 72 hours of 0 calories before the body will start looking to muscle protein through gluconeogenesis. And then this study was actually of people that I can't remember, they were severely malnourished. So they had super low single digit body fats anyway. So if you're somebody who's 12 or 13 or 14% body fat, you think you're going to lose muscle when you fast, you're on crack. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm so happy you brought that up. And because I just did a webinar the other day, and I had a guy ask me about, the whole how to stay anabolic in between meals, and sipping on BCAAs, and the difference between the BCAAs and the essential amino acids, and the sort of the conventional wisdom that as a bro, we need to be sipping on BCAAs all day long so we don't all of a sudden start gobbling up our muscle tissue, right? So everyone just needs to settle down. It's going to be okay. We can go 4 to 5 hours plus, obviously, in between meals, for one thing, to say nothing of the immense benefits of going significantly longer. But, for me, I'm at the stage of my life, I'm 38 years old. I'm at the stage of my life now where I'm bypassing that whole ego. Right. And I care much more now about longevity, about long-term health, about ensuring that, I can maintain this quality of life. And so what I'm seeing is from your resource, certainly, and from all the research that supports your resource is the tremendous genetic and cellular benefits of intermittent fasting and caloric restriction, and all of those things. And so I think there's a lot of people that are acknowledging that aspect of their life now. All of us, dads and if 30 something, 40 plus guys. And so that's where I'm at and what I'm trying to share with people. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, I'm just like you, dude. For me, it's all spiritual awareness now. It's like walking the path. Me too. The ego is no longer, what drives me is not money. What drives me is helping people, servicing other people, doing this kind of stuff, the grassroots, coming on people like you, your podcast, talking about things, that are a little esoteric as far as in the mainstream. But yeah, dude, the benefits of fasting, it's like what you were just saying. It's really, fasting is like, speeding up, the autophagic process. Literally it's, getting rid of the bad stuff in cells. There's so many benefits to fasting. It's neuroprotective. Obviously it's, reducing inflammation. It's doing so many things. But yeah, from a big picture standpoint, there's no reason for a guy or a girl to fear loss of muscle when they fast. It's complete nonsense. When I did the 63-hour fast, you talk about shred. Incredible. And yes, I lost some muscle glycogen. I was kind of flat, but it didn't take long for me to refill. My workouts suffered on Monday because I just didn't eat along. I tried to give myself 3 hours and not 6 hours. I learned a lesson. But yeah, you're not going to lose muscle. I lost maybe 1 pound the whole entire 63-hour fast. And that was more than anything. It was just, glycogen. Because I drank tons of water. I was drinking 1.5 gallons of water probably a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fallacy. It's the modern day societal, you got to eat every 3 hours, bro. You got to have 200 grams of protein a day. I mean, it's all nonsense. It's all signed by the supplement companies and the food and nutrition companies to sell you more product. Simple.
Yep. So I would encourage people to step outside their comfort zone, start to learn what's working for them, and actually try to be intuitive about it. And go to resources like trtrevolution.com. Check out Jay's new book, Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. Jay, Amazon, best place to find it?
And then if you're in North America and you're watching this podcast, you can get the book for free. You just pay for shipping, and it's at metabolicblowtorchdiet.com. But yeah, the Kindle version and also the paperback version is also available on Amazon.
Beautiful. And how about let's just go real quick on your EMF product.
Sure. So Energy Memory Focus is our first product from our supplement company, which is Optimized Life Nutrition. We've got two in the pipeline that'll be coming soon. We're going to have a bar, and we're also going to have a squirt bottle of teacrine and some other stuff, which is going to be amazing. We're going to probably call it fast juice. It's going to be something around the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet lifestyle. So Energy Memory Focus is probably, in my opinion, and I've used them all. And also we've got some really high level people in the supplement industry that it's now their nootropic of choice. It's probably one of the strongest over the counter nootropic supplements you can get. You have not tried it. I'm going to get you a bottle. It's coming after today.
No, but I looked at the ingredients, and it has a really great ingredient.
Yeah, it's not a proprietary blend. It's 200 milligrams of teacrine, which is a heroic dose. I just had Sean Wells on my podcast, and we talked about teacrine at the highest levels, about how amazing it is.
3 and 8, magnesium 3 and 8.
Yep, it's got magnesium 3 and 8, which very few people even know what that stuff does, but that's proven to enhance cognition. It actually increases IQ up to 6-7 points. So, and then you have obviously the old school stuff. I can't even think of the two other. It's got bacopamurins, and then it's also got the what's the other, rhodiola. So all four of those synergistically give you a very clean, very enhanced, focus. And then, as you know, Ben, as we talked about, you can take caffeine by itself if you're a coffee drinker, or if you're, me, one of those Mio people, constantly throwing caffeine in your water. It's synergistic. So you can take, a moderate dose of EMF in the morning at say 6 a.m. when you wake up, and then take a cup of coffee at 9 o'clock, and you'll actually potentiate the supplement dosage a little bit, and maybe give you another hour, 90 minutes. So it's definitely an amazing product for sure.
Great, Jay. I look forward to trying it out. Like I said, it looks like the ingredient list is legit, and so I'm all about that, as you know. Jay Campbell, thank you, sir. It has been an absolute pleasure, to have the opportunity to catch up with you again. This time being on the interviewer end of the podcast. And gosh, dude, you're doing great things in the industry, which I so appreciate. You're a smart cat and a hardworking dude, again, which I appreciate, and just sharing the love. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben, man. It's been an honor. And by the way, guys, if you want that supplement, it's at optimizedlifenutrition.com. Just go right there and we'll ship it out to you.
Perfect. And of course, we'll have all of the links that we talked about to Jay's book, both of his books, his website, his supplement product that we just covered, the calorie calculator, or the macro kind of guide that goes along with his Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, all of those things in the show notes. Until next time, brother, take care.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you having me on today. It's been an honor.
Take care. Bye. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple podcast. If you did, then go ahead and like and subscribe below. And if you're listening on iTunes, then make sure you subscribe to our channel. And if you love the content that we're putting out there, then leave us a 5-star review. It's really the best way that you can support us in our mission to get the best quality strength, nutrition, fitness, and supplement information out there so that we can help more people. We appreciate you. Please continue to listen. And again, like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and your time, and catch you on the other side.